get right into it here. We, first on the agenda, we have an ARP Committee Plan discussion, and I guess we'll open up the discussion now. Do we want to give a little outline as to what we're doing here?
Yeah, why don't I go through what I sent to you guys and
okay.
what my ideas were and see
okay.
how you guys like or don't like them. So we talked about the committee plan last time. So I just kind of honed in on that a little bit and tightened it up. We had, and what I'm looking at right now, I'd like to have one central committee chaired by a non-voting facilitator. I'd still like to recommend Stu Summers. That committee will have one commissioner, 2 council members, and the county auditor and county attorney as non-voting advisors. And then we will have 4 subcommittees. One would be behavioral health and social services, and that one, well, I'll just go through each one separately. 1 commissioner, 2 council members, and 2 citizens. And then the Portage and Center Township trustees as non-voting advisors, since this is the population they usually deal directly with. Nonprofits and employers, 1 commissioner, 2 council members, 2 citizens, and a nonprofit expert to be determined, maybe someone from the business community to be determined as non-voting advisors. Infrastructure and facilities, 1 commissioner, and that would also be any industry that was affected more than normal. Can't find my word right now. 1 commissioner, 2 councilmen, 2 citizens, and Mike Novotny, our county engineer, and Ray Cloyd, our facilities director, as non-voting advisors. And then the county government COVID health response, which would have 1 commissioner, 2 council members, 2 citizens, and a health department representative, and our HR director as non-voting advisors. And the citizens on all of these committees, the commissioners, board of commissioners would appoint 1, and the county council would appoint the other. I would like to take applications through March 8th so that on March 15th we could appoint. I think Kurt and I worked on an application yesterday that should be online immediately to take applications. It's pretty self-explanatory once you get there. So public input for these committees. Every committee should have at least 1 meeting that's in the weekend, either on the weekend or in the evening, to take public comments. All the meetings will be open and videotaped. Public can sign up for text alerts so they know when all the meetings will be. Online applications taken immediately through March 8th. And online input as well. And I think, we'll have a deadline for the input so the committees can then do their work, probably the end of March. But that's what I've got. I'm open to suggestions.
The Infrastructure Facilities Committee, Laura, you said that would include businesses that were affected by...
Well, like tourism, hospitality, that kind of stuff.
Okay, and then the county government COVID health response, what is that exactly?
That would be anything we would need as a county to prevent or mitigate, if the pandemic swings up again or, something else comes around. Okay.
And then the Behavioral Health and Social Services Committee, I see we have Portage and Center Township trustees as non-voting advisors. My recommendation there would be to add 2 of the rural townships to that as well.
That's fine with me.
And the other question I had is, your recommendation that Stu Summers chair the non-voting facilitator, and my concern with that is Stu's a great guy, very bright, great guy, but he has a current contract with the RDC, and as we know from the first list of projects, the RDC was on that list to be awarded $1 million. And there's probably little doubt that that $1 million would go toward, at least in part, to service that contract. And I just see that as a conflict that we need to avoid.
Well, the other thing we're doing today is looking at that list and potentially revising it. I think Stu is very organized and works very well with this kind of thing. Anyone we choose is somebody's going to not be happy with them.
Well, and that's, I don't argue that. That could very well be, but to deliberately point somebody who has could very well have a financial interest on the very projects that we're funding, we should absolutely avoid that. And Stu, as you know, is also involved with the broadband committee, and I'm sure he's not doing that for nothing. And we're very likely to be funding broadband in the unincorporated areas, at least in part.
Well, Scott, do you see this as a conflict legally?
Well, we'd have to go identify exactly how, to be able to answer the question, we'd have to identify whether or not the actual underlying issue of whether or not the money that would come from, any potential money that would come out of the commissioners and the council on the next ARP plan would actually be funding any of the work that Stu is doing as the RDC financial. So we would have to look at that. I don't know off the top of my head if the RDC has I believe, as I sit here, the RDC has the funding already in place to pay for Stu, but don't know that, as I sit here, enough to say for sure. So it's a good discussion point, and we can look at it and figure that out for Tuesday.
Okay.
Well, I stand, I'm not shy by saying it. If this is going to get my vote of approval, Stu cannot be chairing that steering committee. Because even if we were to come back and say his contract currently is being serviced by another lot of money, that doesn't mean moving forward, once the ARP monies are flushed into, say, the TIF district in South Haven or to broadband, that months from now, that he will be serviced with it. And I think that there's plenty of resources out there that we can tap to bring somebody in here who has absolutely, nothing to do with anything in our county that would come in and help us, guide us through this. I don't know why we wouldn't avoid any appearance of any kind of conflict, especially considering what we've had to deal with over the last few weeks with this. I commend you for laying it out. It obviously took work. I appreciate that. And I have no issue with it the way it's laid out. The only issue I have is again, Stu's a great guy, but I just don't see where, it is tantamount that he's under the circumstances that he is the facilitator of the committee.
Well, I appreciate your comments. Don't forget it's a non-voting position.
I get it. But he's still steering.
All right, well, we can figure that out over the week. What do you think, Jeff?
Well, I think if that's the direction that Commissioner Biggs wants to go, I would ask him to offer up some suggestions. It's easy to pick holes at things, when you don't put anything together. But if you have some ideas, I personally have a problem bringing someone in from a consulting that doesn't understand the county, has never worked with the county. I think that's troublesome. I think it's going to add a lot of time to the process. Because right now, if we go that route, we have to start all over. We have to do an RFP,
Yes.
request for proposal.
Yes.
Then we'd have to market it. We'd have to go through meetings to receive, we'd first have to write the RFP, then we'd have to promote it, we'd have to market it, then we'd accept the RFPs, and then we'd have to go through the process to pick who that person would be. So that's probably another 30 to 45 days to, pull that all together. So my only concern is it's going to slow the process, and it's going to add more, just more red tape and more someone who really doesn't have a grasp of what's going on here in our county. So that's really my only concern here. I like everything else that's been put together. I would like to see us move on it and act quickly so we can get into these groups and we can start vetting this all out. But if this is going to hold it up, then we have to be prepared for that as well, too. So that's all I'm really saying.
Well, my understanding, Vicki, how long do we have before we have to show that these, any of this money is encumbered?
The rule is that all funds must be obligated by the end of 2024.
Oh.
And obligated means a contract or some other
Right.
formal agreement.
So we got the better part of 2 years. I don't know what the rush would be. And I did make a recommendation, Commissioner Good, that we bring somebody in from the outside, and to be honest with you, I don't know why the Board of Commissioners couldn't steer this ourselves. We get paid to be up here. We're elected. We have to be accountable. I have no problem whatsoever of giving my time to help steer this. But as I stated, I don't. If it takes another 30 or 40 or even 60 days to bring somebody in here that does things like this, for a living, and where we're assured that it's being laid out right and it's done properly, what's 60 days? As I said, we've got nearly 2 years. We have to encumber any of this money. I don't know what the rush is.
So we'll stew over that a little more, and, didn't mean that.
No pun intended?
No pun intended. Jeez, that one, right over the head there. It's a swing and a miss there. Wow. Okay, so next up on the agenda then, we have the ARP Ordinance Modification discussion, and I guess...
Do we want to talk at all about who of us would sit on any of these before we, just so we have the discussion today and can mull it over, not stew it over?
Well, I would be more than happy to be on the Infrastructure and Facilities Committee. I think that's sort of my strong suit, so I'm throwing that out there for me.
Having put all this together, would be interested in being on the Central Committee. And I think I did a lot with the COVID response, so those are the two committees that are attractive to me, that I think I would sit well on. What do you think?
I'll take what's left.
Well, they're all important committees.
Yeah, they are.
It makes little difference to me. If this is done the way it should be, it makes little difference to me.
Okay.
All right.
So
All right, I just wanted to get that out there.
Yeah, that's fine.
What are we gonna do, timeline?
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
Well,
I forgot
yeah.
about the timeline.
And this could change now, based
Yeah.
on,
This is the timeline I had in mind. As soon as possible, getting out applications to the public so we can have people showing their interest on sitting on these committees, collecting public input's already ongoing, getting the structure out there. Today, hoping to modify the current plan, discussion of it, and draft this what we just did. February 22nd, we have a meeting. Hopefully, we can adopt our final structure of this process, vote on it, appoint a facilitator, or decide how we're going to do that, appoint ourselves, and vote on any plan modifications that we'll talk about coming up here. March 8th, citizen applications would be due. That'll give us a week to go over them before our meeting on March 15th. Maybe we can have a joint meeting with the council, because they will also be appointing people to their committees, but it's probably not necessary. March 31st, the deadline for public comment and plan submissions. April and May, the committees will meet, take public comment, get work done. And then June, the committees will continue to meet and go over everything they've received. In July, recommendations coming formally to the Central Committee, and it would be nice to adopt and appropriate these plans and funds in August. August 23rd, both the commissioners and the council have a meeting, so we could perhaps do a single presentation on that date.
What kind
This is
of,
all draft.
what kind of restrictions are we going to put on citizens' applications? Who and who should not apply?
People that are asking for money is what.
You're asking for money, or you're employed by a organization that's asking for money.
Or a board member.
Or a board member,
Right.
then you cannot set as a citizen's appointment.
Yeah. The draft application we put together points that out, right? That,
Right now?
the information,
No, but it has to be changed after your discussion.
right, okay. What are your thoughts on that?
On,
What restrictions for the citizen appointments?
I think that's reasonable.
So if the facilitator changes, I would basically say from the March 8th on, that would get pushed back about 60 to 90 days. So the committees really wouldn't be meeting till probably end of summer, looks like.
Yeah,
So that's based off this plan. It could change.
Yeah.
But just trying to look at the fluidness of it.
Yeah, the only thing, like I said, Laura, I don't have a problem with the way it's laid out, other than, my initial thought was that we would have some kind of scoring system, much like we do when we select engineering firms or architectural firms to do business with us. Some kind of scoring system. That way it takes out any emotional selection here or thought or...
it's a good idea. We can get to that when the committees are populated and meet, maybe, and we'll start working on it now.
And if we go to put something like that together, I'd like to be part of that. If we're going to put together a scoring process that...
Yeah, bring it. I'd love to see it. So that's all I have for those things.
Any other further discussion on that? Okay. Now we're going to move to number 2 on the agenda. That's the ARP Ordinance Modification discussion. And how are we planning on doing this? Just going to go down and name them, or they're already printed on the agenda and on the board up there? So do we just want to open up now?
Whatever the commissioners
Sure.
want to discuss about the ones that are currently on the plan.
I think we all agree premium pay needs to stay,
Should I open up the first one? Okay.
but I don't speak for you guys.
So you're saying,
I'll start with what I'd like to see stay. How about that?
let me make a bracket here.
I'd like to see the premium pay stay. I think our employees deserve it. The township trustees' money, they're the ones that have boots on the ground, helping people right now. I'd like to see that stay. I'd like to see the behavioral health study stay, because I think that will help our behavioral health committee better figure out what our needs are. And then the Marquette Trail, because it's my understanding that we need this for match money for a federal grant that will bring a lot more money into the county and make sure this project actually happens. Those are the 4 things I'd like to stay. That does not diminish how strongly I feel about the other projects we have, especially the stormwater projects, Stimson Drain and Shorewood. Those are big projects that are really important, and I hope they get strong referrals in the committees.
Yeah, going through what you just named, Laura, the premium paid to frontline workers, I do agree with. The township trustee, I would ask to reconsider that, because my personal feeling is, given what they were going through at the time, that $500,000 is not enough. I'll just say it.
I think all along, even when we came up with the first plan, that was a start, at least in my mind. That wasn't, this is all you get, we're done.
You're saying that doesn't necessarily mean that.
Well, that doesn't mean that's all they get. That's just what they get out of this first part of our plan.
Okay.
I think probably we're definitely going to find out they need
The Marquette Trail, just so the public understands that in order for us to qualify for federal funds to complete that project, we have to have matching funds. If we don't provide matching funds within a certain amount of time, we lose that federal funding, which is substantial with this particular project. And I agree with that. I agree with that as well. The behavioral needs health study, that's already under contract. They've already begun work on it, so they have to be paid. So I'm in agreement with what Laura had suggested.
I would like to point out too, the Memorial Opera House has been somewhat of a lightning rod proposed early on to take that out. I don't think that should be completely out of the mix. It's in the qualified census tract, and $5,500,000 is probably more than anyone wants to spend out of this pot of money we have, but I think it should be under consideration to receive at least something. It was very much so affected by COVID.
You're talking into this new process?
Yes.
Well,
yes.
That's up to the committees.
Yep.
Up to the public, right? And the council will also have to approve this amendment, correct, Scott?
Yeah.
They would have to appropriate the money.
So basically what we're doing is turning back, restarting, and throwing it back out there.
Yep.
So.
Except for the 4 things.
Except for those, well, yeah, I mean, but we're deciding that now.
Well, we're going to vote on it.
We're about to.
That's just that's what I think. Sounded like you agreed.
Well, I to be honest with you, I'm in favor of voting on it now and moving it forward so these frontline workers get their money.
We need to have this discussion meeting and then have another meeting on Tuesday to actually amend the ordinance.
On the 22nd?
Yeah.
That's fine.
Tuesday.
Yeah, that's fine.
Sounds good to me. I like what you've come up with, and we'll throw off this other stuff. I think on Tuesday, too, I'm going to try to ask our stormwater department to come in here and sort of give a presentation on the 2 projects that are the Stimson and Shorewood project, because I think there's a lot of misunderstanding out there as to these are failed systems that we're talking about here. This isn't someone's pet project. These are failed systems, big systems, that have a huge clean water component to what's going on in this county and affects very large areas of population. So I'm going to be advocating for those just because they're huge projects. One of them really doesn't have much of a revenue source to it, So, and it's an integral location for the county, so I want these guys to come in and sort of give you folks the engineering and status of these projects and how they fit within the county, because I think people would get a better understanding of what's going on there too. So we're going to try to bring some more information here on Tuesday to give the people, and so there's more data out there that we can talk about. So you have an understanding of why these were put forward and why they're going to be discussed and debated. Okay?
And the bottom line is starting fresh like this, they're all going to be judged individually, and compared with other needs, that are outside of the four walls of county government. And with that, Laura and Jeff, I would care to set as the commissioner on the Behavioral Health and Social Services Committee and the nonprofits and employers.
Okay. Our folks are set.
Yeah.
Now we got to get the council to set their folks and get this facilitator figured out. So that's what we have in front of us next, and we'll work diligently to get that figured out and to try and keep this process moving. With that, we've now have had our discussion on our modifications. So I think what we need to do now, right, Scott, is we need to open up for public comment. And I think what we're talking about on the public comment are these 8 or 9 issues here that are before you that are possible modifications, and we'd like to hear the folks here weigh in. So with that, we're going to open up a public hearing, and if you come forward, please give your name, your address, and go from there.
I did not come. My name is Robert Cotton, 705 Little Street, Valparaiso, Indiana. Didn't come with the intention of speaking, but I was compelled to say a couple things as it relates to concerns that extend downstream, in our own struggles to devise a respectful plan to the content and spirit of what's in the ARPA pandemic relief funding. Although I wanted to say, too, that I appreciate mightily the effort, however big a strain it might be, to get this thing right for the myriad of residents, citizens who are truly deserving of this type of relief that customarily is just not found. These are the people who, generally speaking, are often told that there is no room at the end. We can't be a nanny state. This is an extraordinary opportunity, and I think you guys are going to knock the cover off the ball with respect to an example for the remaining cities throughout our county. I do have a concern, however, though, with respect to there being no inhibition similar to the one expressed about people participating who are asking for consideration themselves. I mean, I think that there's when we talk about conflict of interest as being the reason why there might not be a person who is asking for money to participate on the steering. I think in a similar manner, in 2019, when Mike Jessen took on mayoral responsibilities in Valparaiso, he did that suggesting that he would not subsequently run for the county seat again. And I think he has changed in that disposition, but what he did at that point in time was recognize the potential conflict of interest for having such a large footprint at the county level and as well as at the city. So I think that with respect to the inhibition that's been placed on people who have, an outsized footprint or skin in the game, I think that an inhibition on that particular council person, I don't know if you guys are inclined to do that, but with it being not forthcoming from him, I've been very concerned about the propriety of that, however legal it might be. It just doesn't look good. So I'd like for that to be taken into consideration if, in fact, I hope you understand where I'm coming from. I do like the idea of fresh eyes. This is not something to steer this in a manner that requires an intimate knowledge of the county. It's somebody who can who can understand the nature of what's in this plan and who the potential targets are, and have an unbiased, unconnected, fresh eyes to do strictly an objective analysis or steer of us towards good objective decisions that will be beyond reproach, versus having a closely woven insider to steer it. So I do agree with Commissioner Biggs with respect to considering someone else in the spot of Stuart Summers. And I might add, and I hate to have to say this, but I admire him to the highest. It's not about him personally, it's about the circumstances and the optics, and as well the closeness and proximity to the whole infrastructure. So anyway, it's a lot. Didn't mean to say a lot, but again, great job, guys, and come on down to Valpo sometime and explain what you're doing for our council. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Robert.
Sure. Anywhere there was a mic.
Elizabeth Gingrich, Gingerich, 702 Indiana Avenue, Valparaiso. As the chair of Christian Business Ethics at Valparaiso University's College of Business, there's some key words here, and I've been looking at your web pages for any kind of policy on ethics. And as a practicing attorney with Mr. McClure, as we all know, to avoid the appearance of impropriety is tantamount to the practice. I'm glad to see these committees composed of commissioners, city council people, and citizens. And
County council.
I'm sorry, county council. I'm sorry. But I'm wondering why this did not start last May when the first round of money was received, and how come it took so long? And also, I did not hear anything in terms of the response of last week's decision about the violation of the open door law. I believe that stems from the October 26th meeting of the commissioners. Is that correct?
This is your question?
My question is what's happening in terms of the commissioners' response to that finding?
Today's meeting.
Pardon?
There was a finding. There wasn't a finding of an illegal meeting.
So the decision last week is null and void?
It didn't say it was null and void. It said the decision didn't come down. If you read the actual decision, it didn't actually say that the open door law was violated.
Okay, but there is a suggestion that it might be, or at least the potential was there? Okay.
That's why we're here today to discuss the committee structure and the potential modification to the original ARP ordinance.
Okay. With that in mind, is there a distinct policy for both, I know you can't speak on behalf of the council, but for the county, about ethics in terms of conflicts of interest, recusals, that should be mandatory? Is there any ethics policy that the commissioners have adopted that is available for the public?
We're part of the Shared Ethics Commission.
Okay, and with the Shared Ethics Commission, what are the key provisions with respect to conflicts of interest and recusals?
It's all part of our code, right? I mean,
We can have it available, and if we want to discuss it on Tuesday, we can. We don't have that in front of us right now.
Okay, that's not something on your website that the public can access at this time?
I'm unsure as I sit here.
Okay. Well, I appreciate, again, all your work, but Commissioner Biggs, I really appreciate you bringing life to the public on something this important, once in a lifetime, with this multi-million-dollar gift, basically, for us to do some real meaningful work in Porter County. And yes, it might take an extra 30 to 60 days to do the right thing, to make sure that all the ethical discussions, the points are met. I have my students coming to your next meeting, and they're going to be looking for things like this. And I'm hoping that, again, a conflicts of interest type of policy will be presented on the website for them to read before coming to the meeting. But I do appreciate all your efforts. Thank you.
Anyone else? Come on forward, give your name and your address.
Hi, good morning. I'm Susie Tlevsky. I'm from Porter County. And I'm the lady who actually filed the complaint with the public access counselor. for violations of the open door law. And I disagree with County Attorney McClure here. It was pretty clear in the decision that the public access counselor said that he found likely violations. And he certainly made clear that the spirit of the law was violated. He also made clear in that decision, okay, that this whole ARPA fund process needed to be done in full view of the public with public participation. That's what he made clear. The public access counselor put in a lot of work. He did an excellent job. I want to thank Luke Britt, the public access counselor of this state. I think we all should be grateful to him that he took the time to go through the 50-some pages that you sent down to him, which I'm very, very curious. I noticed that there was nothing in there in those documents that you sent down that included anything from Commissioner Biggs. I would like to know from you, County Attorney, when you received the complaint, I assume from Laura Blaney, because she was CC'd along with me, did you ever send that complaint to Commissioner Biggs?
This isn't a question and answer.
I'm asking you.
Thank you for your question.
Okay, Commissioner Biggs, did you receive anything from this county attorney?
Not to my recollection, did I receive the copy of that complaint.
You never received a copy from the complaint. So our county attorney...
All right, well then, hold on.
Can I finish?
I'm gonna go
I'm
find
gonna
the email.
finish. Let me just finish, because I read through everything. There was nothing in there from Commissioner Biggs. Absolutely nothing. With all the documents, 50-some pages that you sent down, you have 3 commissioners here, there was nothing from Commissioner Biggs. So I'm asking, did you send him that complaint at all?
Yes.
I received a
Jim,
copy of the ruling.
You got a copy of the ruling, and you got a copy of the original complaint.
I don't remember receiving a
I'm
copy. I don't recall it.
I'm gonna pull it up here.
Okay.
Did you get any input? Did you get Commissioner Biggs's side of the story? Did you send down anything to the public access counselor that included Commissioner Biggs's response? Because I didn't see anything.
The allegation was that there was illegal meetings happening that did not include Commissioner Biggs.
That's right. So did you fairly present that to the public access counselor? In other words, did you present the public access counselor the entire story,
Of course
Scott?
I did.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Thank you for your opinion, Susan.
Okay. You know what? That's another thing. I don't even know you, but you keep addressing me by my first name.
I'm sorry. I won't anymore.
Okay? I have a last name. Please address me by my last name. I address you by your last name, correct?
Please find attached a formal complaint alleging an open door violation. I'll be preparing the response to Commissioner Good, Commissioner Biggs, and Commissioner Blaney on January 4th of 2022. Which one?
The one highlighted.
Yeah. I searched your name.
Sure did. I didn't recall receiving it.
Okay. And did you ever get a response from Commissioner Biggs? Did you ever get any response, any input or anything? Did you do any follow-up to that at all?
I prepared the response as I indicated I would.
Right, but you put in a lot of effort to preparing that response. What I'm saying is, did you try to get any...
The job of the county attorney is to defend the allegations made against the commissioner's office, and that's what I did.
Right, I understand that. What I'm saying is, did you follow up with Commissioner Biggs to get any further documents from him? You put in affidavits, for example, from the others? Did you try to get anything like that from him?
I did not, because the allegations did not contain the allegations that you made did not indicate that Mr. Biggs was involved in any of your allegations.
Right, but in order to present the full story, he's the one that wrote the op-ed that there was, obviously that he was excluded, that the public was excluded. In other words, did you really present the full story to the public access counselor?
Yes.
Well, I don't know, people can go read that, I don't think you did, honestly, you know?
Thank you for your
So,
opinion.
well, all right. So, anyways, the other thing is, you know, I read through the article here, and one thing I noticed was, you know, Commissioner Blaney, you seem confused about the open door laws in this state. How long have you been in, like, public office?
I'm confused by the open door law.
You're not? Okay. Well, it seemed like you said here that you didn't realize that, you know, there was any
One
potential
commissioner and
violation.
2 councilmen, no. That's never been a problem in the past.
No?
No.
And not having public meetings for the ARPA funds, that wasn't of any concern to you?
Never had ARPA fund meetings in the past.
What? Well, the ARPA,
Funds are new.
right, they are new, but what I'm saying is, it didn't occur to you that that should be done in public?
No. 1 commissioner and 2 council people, no, it did not. That's not a majority of either board.
No, I'm asking you whether the whole ARPA fund deliberation process,
Were you here earlier when I presented this entire process?
I'm talking about from the onset, from last year, because obviously we're like almost like 1 year behind now. I'm asking you whether when
We
you,
had lots of time.
we do have lots of time, but the money's, my understanding is the money has been there for,
Since March.
since March of last year? So, pretty much nearly a year.
Correction,
Here,
it was
please.
May that we...
May?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay, May.
And from May, there was 5 different versions that came out from May over the next year of how the ARPA funds had been changed, 4 times, 5 times, was it? 4 or 5, just to be clear,
With the interim guidance.
with the interim guidance.
The interim final rule came out in May, but we all knew that that was not the final rule, and we were waiting for the final rule. At least my perspective was that I really wanted to wait until the final rule came out, because I have attended enough workshops to know that there were a lot of public comments, a lot of discussion about potentially changing some of the provisions.
So I'm not understanding. You guys wanted to wait until the final rule for what?
I'm not speaking for the commissioners or the council, I'm speaking from my perspective.
Uh-huh.
I wanted to wait until the final rule to see exactly how any of the provisions might be changed.
Okay, that's a good idea, but I guess I'm just wondering, what does it have to do with last year with the, you know, deliberations for the ARPA funds? I'm not quite, you know, I mean, the money was here, there was an interim final rule, they went through their own private process of making the allocations. I'm asking whether Commissioner Blaney seems confused as to what should be done in public with the participation of the public, because she, I mean, to me, in this article that I read by Doug Ross here, seemed a little bit confused, you know, like she didn't have a good grasp of the open door law.
My response was to what was just brought up here about how there has been changing interpretations and analysis, and in response to the interim final rule that came out last May. That's what I was addressing.
Okay, all right, okay. You know, one thing, so Commissioner Blaney, you know, it seems pretty clear here that do you realize that you did something wrong even?
You know what, Susie, I read the opinion.
Again, please, I call you by your formal name, please call me by my last name. I think it's rude to call people by their first names when they're up here.
Your election,
Okay.
said Susie all over town, so that's what
That's
I read.
great, okay, then I'll call you Laura. Should we be on a first name basis here? I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to be respectful to you by addressing you. What?
I'm just telling you where it came from. It wasn't from a position of disrespect. I read.
I think it is a position of disrespect, so,
I will
okay?
fix it. I'm telling you where it came from. I
Fine.
saw your Susie signs when you ran for
That
office.
was like 2 years ago.
Well, that's when I got.
I mean, I don't know you even personally, so,
You certainly don't.
no. So, you know, I'm asking you to address me by my last name,
Okay.
okay? Not to be so, I mean, I just don't know you guys, so, not to be so friendly. So I'm just asking you about this, you know,
We're here to take public comments, and when you're finished, I'll respond.
okay, well, I'm asking you right now.
I'm going back and forth with you.
Okay, one thing
It's seriously become some kind of a personal.
It's not, I don't even know you. I'm very, very disappointed actually in you more than anybody else, honestly, okay? Because you actually should have been the leader on this whole ARPA fund process. Okay, this is actually a bill that's passed by the Democrats. It is signed by a Democratic, Congress, and honestly, I would have hoped that you would have been the leader to do this whole process in following the rule, the letter of the law, the spirit of the law, and having public input, to actually care what the public says and doing it in the proper way. But instead, what I saw and what the public saw is you basically engaging in a lot of private, discussions with Commissioner Good, some of the other council members. Well, those allocations did not just manifest themselves through telepathy from you to our county attorney. So they had to have obviously, been done in some way.
I'm
Okay?
putting together a plan myself and bringing it to a meeting to be discussed.
And then having the entire thing passed. So basically one person, you're saying, you were the only person
I talked to a couple
that basically, so I don't understand, how could you think that that's fine?
Democrat one, because
Okay.
I brought it to a public meeting, Susie.
You brought it to a special meeting. These special meetings, you guys give 2 days' notice, okay, so that the public basically cannot even attend. This meeting is a special meeting. The meeting where the allocations happened actually was a special meeting. Most people do not know about them. You guys give 2 days' notice for a 10 o'clock meeting. So it indicates to us that you guys don't even care what people think.
Those are the rules. We don't make the rules.
Those are the rules. Wow, Laura, okay, give me a break. Those are the rules. You just don't care. You want to disenfranchise the public is basically what you want to do. That is not. It's not. People can see what's going on and how much we've had to push against you and fight against you to literally force you to open up a public process. That's what we've had to do. I've had to go complain to the public access counselor about you and your colleague here, okay, just to get things set on the right track. It would be great if these meetings were in the evening so more people could attend. I think other people have voiced this concern over and over again. You don't seem to care. I mean, you basically behaved as though you're the queen of Porter County, is the way you behaved. And now the serfs, the peasants, are fighting back because ultimately that money belongs to the people of the county. And now what you're trying to do is you're trying to put someone who I have only heard negative things about. His name is Stu Summers. I've never heard, okay, but apparently he's an insider. You want to put him as the leader of this whole ARPA funds process. Why not open that up? I mean, this lady over here, I don't know her, but she's a professor over at Valpo University of Ethics and Business and Law. That kind of person, to me, would seem an excellent choice. I don't know if she'd be interested in something like this, but why not open consideration to others rather than your hand-picked toadies that you guys, your cronies essentially, who you guys want to put in there? It's almost beyond ridiculous what's going on in this county. This county's not Lake County. This county's Porter County. And what you guys are trying to do is take us down to that niveau. No offense to my people over there in Lake County, okay? But you engage in some rather unscrupulous, disgraceful behavior, in my book, And putting Stu Summers in there is just a continuation of that. And you don't seem to recognize it. You just don't seem to recognize it. You obviously have a pretty high consideration of your ability to manipulate people. But at some point, obviously the people are waking up, and they've about had enough of it. You did not even say, I'm sorry. Neither did you, of course. You just didn't even make any comment, as to, your behavior of not engaging the public. I mean, it was clear if you read the entire ARPA funds process that it kept repeating in there, the public needs to be engaged. It said that over and over and over again in the interim final rule and the final rule. And it also says in there over and over again how they want basically equitable treatment of disproportionately impacted populations. There's nothing in there really that you guys came up with that targets disproportionately impacted populations. Nothing. If you had done this properly from the beginning, the people, everybody on these committees, hopefully if they're, active and take it seriously, they would have seen all that and hopefully come up with a much better plan, I mean, right now you guys want to push through 3 of these things. I think, obviously just to get things going. I know everybody would like to get the payout to the first responders, so that seems to be okay. And of course, everybody wants the federal matching program, and the $25,000 study is enough. But everything else needs to go to committees, literally everything else, because the $500,000 is really not enough for the trustees. In fact, we need to get all the trustees in here during those subcommittee meetings and hear from them. What do they need? Actually, they probably need a lot more money than you think, or than anybody thinks,
That's why we set this up.
I'm glad that's why. That if you had followed Lieutenant Suzanne Crouch's recommendations in the beginning, in her document that she put out from Okra, then we would have been on this process a long time ago. I encourage you guys to read through that document and follow that document. That's really the best way to go about this. And, it's very disappointing. Your behavior has been very disappointing throughout this process. So I hope that this Stu Summers is not included at all. Hopefully he won't want to be included now, because people are really they're not in favor of that. Stop including your cronies in all of these things. And I also want to back up Councilman Bob Cotton here. One council member on the county council has an inordinate amount of influence in this county, and that's Mike Jessen. When he was appointed to be the city manager or city administrator of Valpo, there was multiple articles that I read that said he was not going to run for the county council again, and here he is running for the county council again. He's a double dipper, essentially. He's, got money coming in from his big job over there as the city administrator, and now, of course, he wants to maintain being a county councilman. He should not even be on any of these committees, my personal belief, because he has way too much control. He shouldn't even be running for office again. He should keep his word, that he said, I'm not going to run again for a re-election. Don't run.
Take that up with him.
Of course. I'm just saying that he should probably not be on any of the committees. I will certainly voice that concern at the next council meeting, which is next week on the 22nd. But this is almost, ridiculous. So, anyways, you guys know what I think, hopefully. And again, I want to thank Commissioner Biggs for getting this out to the people. This never would have happened without him. I hope you guys, learn from him and stop engaging in sleazy, unscrupulous behavior, because that's what you guys pretty much engaged in. You guys got caught, and yes, that's right, you got caught, Laura. It's too bad. But just know that the people are not completely asleep. And I hope more people come out here from Porter County. Get out here, people, and stand up for yourselves. Thank you.
I'll be very brief, if I may talk for a moment.
Name and address.
My name is Walt Breidinger. I live at 608 Academy Street. In case the public didn't understand, and I'm not sure that I did, but it sounded to me as if the whole program is going back to the drawing board, so to speak, with 4 items which you all have agreed to continue in the allocation.
No decision has been made on that until Tuesday.
Okay, but there was a proposal that I thought the 3 of you...
Proposal discussed, correct.
Okay, and that was for the premium pay for first responders, $500,000 for the township trustees, $2.2 million for the Marquette Trail, and $25,000 for behavioral health. So that's kind of a simple summary of what I think the 3 of you just agreed to promote at the next meeting. Did I basically get that right?
That's correct.
I want to thank you for doing that. For whatever reason it occurred, congratulate you and praise you for going back to the drawing board and engaging the public more, and also for keeping those 4 items. To me, it sounds as if some of these are absolutely essential. The Marquette Trail money, my understanding is there's federal money that's going to match that, and if we delayed that for a year, we would lose that federal money. So I can see that. The tiny bit for behavioral health seems so perfectly matched with what I understand the money's supposed to go for. And
it's already under contract, and they've already been working on this for the better part of a month.
Not only do I have no complaints about that, but I think it's wonderful. I think it's that you have chosen those and that the 3 of you could come to some sort of an agreement. And And I'll stop there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all right. You were in the lead.
Hi, I'm Dawn. I live here in Valpo. I just had a couple questions. Ms. Blaney, how much, were you thinking that would be enough for the Opera House? Because, I mean, the $5.5 million seems like extreme. I'm just curious, and
I don't have a number.
Could we, real
Nothing.
quickly, could you
I'm sorry?
introduce yourself?
I'm sorry?
Could you introduce yourself?
Yes, I said, my name is Dawn Miller. I live here in Valpo.
Did you get that, Kathy? Okay, all right. I'm sorry, I missed it. Thank you.
I apologize, Ms. Blaney, I didn't hear your answer.
I didn't have a number, and that will go to the committees. Probably the committee that Mr. Good will be sitting on, not me, so.
Okay. I guess my other thing, would be the behavioral health only getting $25,000,
That is
considering.
only for the study. That
I'm
is
sorry?
not- That's not a total
Well, these are
number.
just things that I just wrote down that I just have questions about. I mean,
Clarifying.
I'm
I'm just clarifying.
I'm not
It's for
interrupting
study
or-
only, so we know how to allocate funds where they need to go in that area appropriately. Further funds.
Okay, so then is the trail, the $2.5 million on the trail, is that really necessary? These are just questions that I'm curious about. It's a lot of money. Anybody can answer that question, I guess.
The Marquette Trail has been a trail we've been working on for over 5 years, and it's been discussed publicly multiple times. It's actually a departure from the original trail that was on an easement by NIPSCO, and after a gas line was put in on top of it, they basically came back and said, if you're going to build a trail on our easement, it's got to be a road. So then we decided to move off that easement because of the expense it would cost to build the 10-mile trail. And we've been working with the National Park Service and other entities, NICD and everything else up there, to develop a 9-mile trail from Chesterton to the LaPorte County line that will tie in to their trail system through Michigan City all the way to the state line. And the project is in 3 different phases right now. There's one phase that's right around the Chesterton station that is currently being funded now by NERC, NICD. So NERC is funding that through federal funds. And there's 2 more phases that will be the bulk of the rest of the trail. That's what's in for federal funding right now. And this is why this would be part of our match money to be able to use that money to build out the rest of that trail. So that, I hope I answered your question.
Oh, yeah, that's
Thanks.
fantastic. I appreciate that. Thank you. Unfortunately, my other questions weren't answered, but I guess I'll get those
I would
answered
like
the
to
next
just-
time.
can I
I mean,
just
that
add
was
on
just,
the-
I was trying to address, and I'm sorry you were attacked before, and maybe you feel defensive, but I mean, I just had, the questions that I feel that I'm asking about, how much you feel should be going towards this Opera House, because apparently, are you on a COVID committee? Are you on any kind of committee that has any kind
I
of,
have a number yet.
no, I understand you don't have a number. I'm just saying, do you have any idea? I mean, I'm trying to keep my composure, because you don't have a number, but I'm sure there's something. I mean, $1. I mean, really, there's nothing. I'm saying from $1 to $5.5 million, you have nothing that you can just say,
I
hey.
think it would be irresponsible for me right now to put a number forward when we don't have the committees going yet, and we don't have all the input, and we don't
Okay.
have all the competing plans.
I just think that more of that money, that $5.5 million that's being considered could go more towards any kind, the behavioral health, anything other than that. So, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sue Baxter. I live in Valparaiso, 656 Franklin Street. My first thing I want to talk about is the Opera House. I don't know if it's been brought up at the last meeting or not, but if you change the footprint of that building, you'll take it off the National Register. And I don't know if anyone's mentioned that before. I think it's very important. I've been to 2 open houses at that Opera House. One was completely repainted, remodeled inside, and I don't know how long ago that was, 25 years ago. And then I went to another one 5 years ago, where it was completely, I don't know, new carpet, brand new seats were given to them from Star Plaza. I believe 3 remodels in my lifetime is almost too much. But the other thing I want to say is, a lot of people do not know about this ARPA funds. A lot of people. I've been posting on Facebook, and there's a lot of comments. A lot of people are very concerned. A lot of people agree with Ms. Telesky. A lot of people do not know there's text messages. I had no idea. Since nobody knows about this, I'd like to know how you guys are going to publicize the residents can apply, because just having one article in one newspaper in today's day is not enough. And I'm going to do what I can to let people know that they can apply, but there's only so much I can do myself, and it needs to be out there. It needs to be more than just, like I say, nobody knows about the text messages. I don't even know, I'd like to see a raise of hands of how many people got here because of the text message. Yeah, 2, I guess. So, I'm glad that you guys have made some changes. I'm glad that I'm on the text message list now. I'm concerned about the tourism. That's the reason why I'm attending these meetings for the first time ever, because of the tourism aspect that's involved and because of the Opera House. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Debbie Bassino, 368 Wilshire Court, Valparaiso. I am here because of the text messages, and so I felt like it was a great way to get these type of meetings out to the public so that the public could be a part of the input on not just this funding discussion, but on all projects in Porter County. And so I do commend whoever decided that it was a way to reach out to the citizens of Porter County. I think it can be effective. It's my responsibility as a citizen of Porter County to read them, to find out what time they are, to make an effort to be here, and to talk to my fellow residents about the type of opportunities that they are. So I do think it has been effective, even though there may only be 3 people here today. 3 is better than none. The other thing I'd like to address is I am thrilled that you would like to have the Stormwater Committee here to bring forward input. I spoke up at a meeting as a resident of Shorewood about concerns. And as a resident, I put myself out there having no understanding about any of it, but was really willing to learn about the process. So when we question the process without gaining knowledge and understanding, it really is not in anybody's best interest to bring forward allegations or misrepresentation of information. In the course of the last 2 years, I have learned a great deal about the structure of the stormwater system in Porter County, knowing that the system in Shorewood is 50 years old and is failing. And so, while there are a lot of citizens vying for opportunities to have a portion of this pot of money, I do think that my interaction with councils and committees has been nothing but inclusive as just a resident. As I said, I hold no position. I don't I don't claim to know any politicians on a first-name basis or in their pocket, but I do feel that it's my responsibility to get to know who they are, what they represent, and then share what I represent as a citizen. So my comments are purely just to say kudos to bringing forward more information about stormwater, and I think that more people will get involved, and I hope that people will do the due diligence to kind of seek out the information and not listen to Facebook posts. So thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good morning. My name is Kenneth Taylor. I live at 306 Napoleon Street, Valparaiso, Indiana. I'd like to address a couple of issues. First of all, the Commissioners, your contact information is on your website, correct? We elected each one of you three to represent us in the county, correct? The entire county elected you. In doing the administration of the county business, what is your annual budget for the county, approximately?
Oh, dear.
Go ahead.
That's for me.
That's you.
The general fund is about 40, can I look it up? General fund is about 42, 43 million.
So it's about $43 million per year, correct?
Just for the general fund.
In general fund?
If we add in Hume Bridge, CCD, Health Department, the jail bond. It's a lot higher. I would have to add it all up.
So we could probably go much, $60 to $80 million a year?
Yes, yes.
Each year. And each year, a series of hearings are held to allocate those funds by the county council and by the commissioners, and each department allocates funds, which then the county council eventually approves. So the administration currently every year is about $80 million. How many people from the public attend those meetings and come forth with recommendations for changes in how that money should be spent? My experience in attending meetings of this type, very, very few. Yet now we have all of this upraised when you are following your normal processes. It's interesting that this takes on such a different reflection than the normal processes. So I think that there is a lot of concern that ought to be expressed other times of the year, not just this time of the year. Because this process is no different than what has been expressed in other processes. There's open discussions, there's meetings, there's adjustments to the budgets every year from the very series of meetings conducted by the council and by the commissioners. So I find that it's interesting that this creates such a change when we have elected you to actually do those duties. You are living up to your responsibilities in conducting the business the way that you have done as a councilman. And I know some people in the background disagree with me, but that's the facts of life. And I've been involved in these activities, and I served on the city council in Valparaiso for 5 years. So I know how it works. The next thing I'd like to cover that was brought up this morning is the election of a person in one body of government while maintaining a job in another body of government. That has been discussed at the state level, and there has been state law that allows that to be permitted. You are allowed to be elected to a county council while serving as a city or town person in that job. There is not a conflict of interest. Where the conflict of interest that the state law addresses is you cannot serve on the city council or county council and work for the county, because then you would be voting on your own budget. Since these are two separate entities, the city and the county, any city in any county, any town in any county, and any county and any township are different entities. And this is not the first county councilman that we've had that served another entity of government. So to consider, to treat that particular individual any different than has been treated in the past or should be treated in the future, or treated differently than state law allows, in my estimation, is an error by any board that would do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Oh, yep, there we go.
Okey-doke. My name is Penny Kuzmic, and I live at 258 Haas Street in Valparaiso, Indiana. And I kind of beg to disagree with the gentleman's comments that this is unusual that people would be speaking up at this time, that it's just kind of out of the norm. Obviously, people are waking up, but this money is not just general funds for the county that are allotted every year. This is special money, supposedly a gift, although it's a loan. We're taking as a country, and if anybody knows about being in debt, and anybody's ever been in debt, this is not a good idea. But, okay, so we're getting the money. But anyway, this COVID thing has invaded our lives. We've spent the last 2 years with people being locked down, locked out, locked in, masked up, jabbed, basically getting sick, families losing family members. This is supposed to be money that is addressing this problem. And I think anybody that has some common sense about it looks at it and goes, okay, until just what the last meeting I came to had big red sign on the door. We're in red, okay. Well, then why is, when we get into the meeting, is all the money that's being allotted going for nothing that has anything to do with it? It just made no sense to me. No money for, I like what Mr. Cotton said, where he said he was hoping to get some fresh eyes, because these are thoughts I've had since the beginning. And this isn't, they made it into a political thing, but I started researching back before it even got to the United States, because I saw it in China, and I thought, oh, it's going to end up over here, I better do some research. So I did, a lot of deep diving. And, so far, the only way that they have actually dealt with this is to lock everybody up, shut businesses down, stick a mask on your face, and, eventually get vaccinated, which they're now admitting lasts about 4 months, okay? So, fine, but where has the real help been? If you go to the health department, you can't even, the woman won't even answer the phone. What is her, Dr. Stamp? I've called numerous times, left messages, never get a call back. I'm sorry. What is that all about? And third world countries were giving out health kits. Okay, they're third world countries, so they can do that, right? There's been no general help as far as, my suggestion for some of this money would be actual medical help, like I looked on the health department website, I thought, well, what is actually going on in there? And I found that they'll do all these tests for free, which I thought, well, that's just wonderful. There's no vitamin D tests. And anybody that's dealt with, and I actually discovered this years ago when my daughter had a really bad case of eczema, and I took her to every specialist I could find, the best out there. And finally went to the regular health, my health link, and said, do something. And they ran tests and found that her vitamin D level was so low that they gave her a shot of 50,000 units. Well, I have pictures on my phone where she went from an active case of weeping, scratching, horrifying eczema to nothing in 5 days with a 50,000 shot of vitamin D. Okay, so if you go and do any research and you look at the medical papers, it states clearly that 70 to 80% of people that get the flu, that get any kind of virus, any kind of sickness, and especially COVID, are 70 to 80% of them are deficient in vitamin D. But have you heard anyone actually talk about that? Do we have anybody in our health department actually trying to keep people from getting sick? And then how about the COVID money? How about some money going for the government building for air filtration systems? There's UV light systems out there, and if you actually would look into it, it's not even that expensive. But we've got money going everywhere else. And yet, we're supposed to believe this is, I mean, where's the trust here? Where's the trust? People, you know, if you want us to think everybody's an expert or they're doing the right thing, you might actually try being an expert and doing the right thing. So, anyway, I'm glad that they're going to be looking into actually spending this money for what it supposedly is supposed to be for. And hopefully, when there's money left over, that some of these projects that are needed would get taken care of. And then, actually, I was thinking when the nice lady got up and was talking about living at Shorewood and her stormwater system's not working. I mean, I feel your pain. It's been there for 50 years and doesn't work. Well, my house was built in 1854, and I hate to tell you, but my stormwater system doesn't work either, But I'm certainly not here asking for it to be addressed with the COVID money, okay? So, I think the average person, in fact, when I tell people from other areas, I have a sister that lives on the other side of the state, was telling her what was going on here, she's like, oh my. And then I was telling somebody up in Michigan what was going on, and they're like, oh my. And I'm like, well, you better look into your local government. Who's thinking that people are not doing the right thing? We're trusting you guys to actually have some common sense on this. I understand it's a wonderful gift, loan. Watch out for the IMF, folks, I'm serious. Everybody thinks the Fed is our federal government. It is not. And anybody that wants to know what happens if your country defaults is look up to what happened in Greece about, 5-6 years ago. They cleaned everybody's personal bank accounts out and their retirement accounts out to pay back the IMF. If you think it can't happen in this country, you need to wake up. Thank you very much.
Okay, so with that, I don't see anybody else getting up, so with that, we're gonna...
I was going to make one comment.
Oh, yep, so we're back in.
Way earlier when I was asked, I think by Commissioner Biggs, about when these funds need to be obligated, Ms. Kuznick made a good point about if there's any monies left over, then use it for other projects. Keep in mind, obligating means December 31st, 2024. So if any contracts that you might let or any appropriations or any proposals come in lower, that obligation has to be done by 2024. So I would recommend that you make sure earlier in the year 2024, identify all of the costs, because otherwise
So it's
it needs to go back.
It's completion of project or funding started?
It's a project brought all the way to contract.
Exactly.
And the contract approved and the money allocated by the date that she's...
Right. It's like an obligation to pay is how the rule describes it, so it's an actual bill that we would have to pay. So if there's any money left on the table on December 31st, 2024, you can't use it.
Right.
It has to be completely
That's why you got to be in those meetings, Vicki.
Oh, I intend to. I just need to clarify that.
Thank you, Vicki. And with that, this board stands in recess. Thank you.